Makes me chuckle. Like this from Sussex and there's stuff from Kent in there, you know what I mean? I was just about to lean into it then.
It's been a while since we did the Lanchester video, so we're going to do one of those, and this time we're going to be dealing with door cuts. Right, this is the back of the passenger door, and there's all kinds of screws and fixings and things. This top one here goes through a metal bracket in the front door card, and there's another one further down somewhere there. So there's two self-tapping screws that go through there into the metal brackets. At the front, on this door, there's one countersink screw there, and there should be another one there, which is missing. These are non-countersink button heads on the other door. So they go through the keyhole things on the back of the door card. And then at the bottom you have 4 of these that go through the carpet piece. Those are the side brackets that go on the B-pillar. And these are the keyholes that go on the leading edge. Now, one thing we did notice is the keyhole slots look like they're upside down. But it seems to go together fine anyway, so we're not going to dismantle the door card to fix that. Well, we're having a minor problem with putting these door cards on, in that quite a lot of things don't quite line up. Quite a lot of the screws we had are bust, so we're reading the screw stash and just finding best fit and just going in through the original fixings wherever we can. The fit's good enough, but it doesn't lock down onto the brackets very well. So we've got a couple more to put in the bottom for the carpet, and then the wooden trim which slots in, and then we can start putting door furniture on. This is not the quick job that we were expecting it to be, but we'll get there. That's the wooden trim properly slotted on, so the next thing to go on to secure things is going to be the door handle, which is held on with 2 flathead domed chromed self-tapping screws. The tricky part's finding where the holes have gone. Skinny screwdriver?
No, it's the fluffy stuff on the other side.
So I'll get the screw. And just see if you can find where the hole is.
It's the fluffy stuff's catching, you can't. There's no way to probe correctly.
That one might be better.
Oh, the hole is in line.
Because we know what we're doing. Sometimes.
Sometimes. It's just... when I was screwing it, I didn't think I had it. This one must be in line as well. Nope, it wasn't in line.
Do you remember have you not gone through the holes in the
Nope.
bracket?
It hasn't caught the holes.
So this is trying to put the rest of the door fittings on. There's a spring-loaded escutcheon that goes behind your handle, in this case the window winder, and you have to lever it back and that little hole there you need to drop a pin into. It's difficult. I don't think we can record it, so we're going to have a go at this off camera and then I'll come back when it's done. There we go. Longer than we wanted to. Got one of the handles on. The trouble we're having is when you push this collar back, you can just about get these on, but the window winder ones are a much shorter peg and we can't get it to seat home, so we're going to have to do some more investigating on that. On the front door card, that's all now secured in. We did have to re-drill the holes in the bottom because they were not lining up with anything, and we did have to re-drill the brackets on the edge, so everything just needs a final tighten up. And now we're going to put the capping on and whichever of the handles we can manage. Doing these escutcheons is quite tricky. I've already set this one up because it's just difficult to line up, but basically you push this against the door, you line your handle up wherever you want it, and these have, okay, so your main components are the escutcheon itself. This is in 3 parts. It's a whole unit, so you have 2 little spikes that are supposed to dig into the door card itself. There's a spring on the inside, and that spring allows this piece to push in and out. The whole purpose of that is to hide these holes, and these holes are indexed with the... It's great, isn't it, when you get noise in the background? These are indexed with the bar that comes out of the door so that you can actually align everything. So what you need to do is you fit that, push the collar back as I've done here, and then you have to push a pin in, and the pin locks everything together. Once the pin's in, this little piece then jumps back out and hides everything, as I'll show you in a moment. As I'll try and show you, it's actually quite tricky to do on camera. So that's the pin hammered home, and then when I let go of that collar, everything is hidden. And that then allows you to open and close the door. This door you can't lock from the inside, you can only lock it from outside. The window winder uses the same system, and you've got the slot hidden around here, but the problem that we're having is when you get this on here, you literally can't push that far enough in. And we think it's because the board's just a bit too thick, so we're going to have to look at some ways of solving that. The doors come together okay. Nice to see some of the interior back on the car properly. And once we figure out how to deal with those window hinders, we'll have the interior together in no time. It's getting a bit cold now, so the other side's going to have to wait for another day. But we'll get there. You remember I said those things were indexed? Yeah, there's a reason for that. Oops. This one has some issues, we'll deal with it later, and you'll see how this is all done as we work through all the unexpected issues putting these back together. It wasn't as straightforward a job as we were expecting. Right, that'll do us for today. Also gives you an idea of why we don't use the garage. It's for anything other than storing this old thing. It's very tight in here and there is no space for work. So we just have to wait for nice days, no rain, and hopefully be more of those to come as we go on. We found after trying to fit the door cards we'd made some mistakes. Hardly surprising, it's the first time we've done this. So the one on the left is the one that we'd done previously. I've started to take it apart for the repairs, stopped before went too far. The one on the right's been fixed. The main problem we had with this one was this edge here was just catching, just around this point here, it was just catching on the A-pillar. And when we looked at the car you could see lots of paint scuffing on the area, so it looks like it's been doing that for a while. So trimmed about, I think it was about 1 millimetre to 0.5 millimetre off this edge, and that fixed that. The other one was a silly mistake, and it was one of mine. I'd taken plenty of pictures of how these go together, and these keyhole brackets, these actually slot onto some screws in the door frame, and it helps hold all the card in place. And the silly mistake I'd done is I put them on upside down. So that one's fixed, and what's supposed to happen is the screw head goes in there, slides up the narrow slot, and that holds it in. But on this side, of course, it can't lock in. So that unfortunately meant taking the cover off, because to fix this you've got to get to the legs of the rivets and then dig them out and take them off and turn them around. It's a palaver. The other problem that we had is the window winders are in the lower holes here. Now the upper ones are for the door release, they're perfectly fine, we have no problems. But the lower ones, we can't push the spring-loaded section of the escutcheon in far enough to engage the pin with the window winder mechanism rod. So this hole has to be made bigger, which we've done on this one by quite a margin, because we think it's the very slight extra thickness of these boards, but you have to recess the larger part of the escutcheon in ever so slightly to be able to push everything in line. So again, unfortunately means taking the whole door card apart to fix. So that has been slowing us down a little bit. But we've got 2 done, we've got 2 to go, and then we can get these on the car properly. First thing to do when you're fitting these is you've got these little screws here. These are replacements, the originals were missing. And on the back of the door card you have the key slots there. The tricky part is you can't see what you're doing while you're trying to do it. Bring you back in a minute when I finish fighting with this. To make things a bit easier, I'm going to pop the front seat out, which is really easy to do. This little bit here is a button, and it's spring loaded. You push it in and lift the seat. So we've located the front pegs and got the front of the door on. We've got these 2 screws in, which go underneath the wooden capping. The next 2 are on the side down here. You've got a bracket there and a hole in the frame, and basically you push the door card in so they line up. And I'm using some of these, which were pretty close to match to what was already in there. So That should do nicely. And then we'll put the screws in on the bottom and then do the door handles, and we'll be done on this one. It's a bit tricky to record in here, there's not really much space. So I've already pushed in on here to line up the bracket with this screw. And once you feel the screw bite, you can see it pulling the door card in nice and snug. There you go. So just the ones on the bottom to go, and then we can put the door furniture on. All the fixings along the bottom on the door card. We've got the keyways on that end done, screws on that end done. So now we need to do the wooden capping. And this has these two long tabs, and the two holes in there are for the grab handle. The metal tabs go behind the door card but in front of the door frame. The tricky part is getting everything lined up properly. This is quite a tight fit. I don't remember you having this much trouble doing it.
Shall I?
Yeah, I think so.
You just hold that there like that, pinch it. I'll try and avoid your fingers.
I remember it being a tight fit, I don't remember it being that tight fit.
You have to make sure you push it in far enough so it goes down.
There we go.
It's those back slot bits, they keep bumping onto the back of the... It does need to push in because it's not exactly flush there.
So what Pat's doing here is just wiggling it around until all the various brackets line up and slop together. With everything being handcrafted, it's all a bit variable. So that's one door capping on, and the one thing that holds the door capping on is when you put the door handle on, the screws go through these two holes and through those holes in the metal brackets. It stops this moving, fixes everything to the door nice and firmly, and then we can put these two back on. One down, 3 to go. And this time, when the window winder's here, it doesn't interfere with the door release. That looks alright, that. Jobbed. Moving a little more difficult. There we go. That's the back one done. Put up a lot less of a fight than the front one. The only issue we had with this one is there is a key piece here which we couldn't turn round. We couldn't correct that mistake because there wasn't enough material and it was too much for a risk. But since there's a screw down here at the bottom, and there's another key up here somewhere, and then you've got the wood and all the fixings, it doesn't really matter. It holds in very nicely. Doors sound a lot better when you shut them. when you look through from the other side, it looks a lot more finished in here now. And with the new, well, I say the new, with the reconditioned seats, which all we did with those was a lot of cleaning and conditioning. Front one needed some repair because of cats, but other than that, one step closer to finished. I've been having some difficulty getting the dashboard into the car. Now, the dashboard has been redone, and the glove box on this end is fouling on the steering wheel when you try and put it in. And I've tried everything bar taking the car apart, or at least I thought I did, until I realised I just used screws to replace the originals that hold the glove box in place. So I'm going to unscrew the glove box, see if I can get it round the steering wheel, and then hopefully I can put the screws back in once the glove box is actually fitted, once the dashboard rather is fitted to the car. There's not a lot of usable space to do this job, so it's a little bit frustrating. I'll show you what I mean. So this is the back of the dashboard, this is the top, so you're seeing it upside down. And on the back of the glove box here, you've got screws that hold these brackets in, which hold this glove box in place. The trouble is, when you're trying to put it in the car, the steering wheel is very close to the windscreen. So you really don't have a lot of space at all. I mean, my fingers are touching the windscreen there, and that's how little space you've got. So there's really no way of tilting anything around, and this windscreen is fixed. On the Barker bodied cars, which this one is, you don't have the opening front windscreen that you have on the Briggs, maybe. So yeah, that's a little bit of a hindrance. We do need to get the windscreen out because the windscreen seal needs to be done, just not today. But if I can get this mocked up, at least in place, it means it's less likely to get damaged and we're a step closer. So I'm going to see if I can set you up to see what I'm doing. There's not a great deal of space in this car, so it's a bit tricky. This is as far back as I can get you, so hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. The goal is to take this side and feed it through behind the steering wheel and the selector. Oh, that actually went surprisingly easily. Now then, can I remember how this actually fitted in the car? Okay, well that worked. There isn't a lot of space on this side to actually get the glove box in. That's going to be a little tricky. The top is this piece, and that just goes over there like that. So that gives you an idea of how far up this main dashboard panel goes. And then this is held on with a couple of screws and the wiper knobs. I think I screw this down and then put this one in underneath it, but I'm going to have a little bit of a look off camera so that I'm not boring you with me trying to figure this out, and I'll bring you back in a moment. A little bit of work later, struggling with those escutcheons on the window winders, and we are nearly there. That rear door card unfortunately needs a little bit more modification to fit. The adjustments it needs means taking it apart, so that's the only one we haven't done. Obviously the car has no carpets, but it would be a good chance to have a look inside. I did get the dashboard in, and I'm going to have to take the dashboard out again, because what I didn't realise is this rail has to go on first. There's I think it's 4 brackets with screws along the top, and once that rail's on you can't actually get to the lower half of the dashboard. Luckily the dashboard is only 3 fixings. There's a bracket underneath the ashtray here in the middle, so you have I can't show you because everything's kind of together, but there's a bracket there, and then there's a bracket in this corner and one in the other corner. And to get this in, taking the glove box off did work, but there isn't enough access to get the glove box screwed in on the top, so it's a little bit loose. So, but that's fine, if you're only putting gloves in it, not a problem. The bracket is there, and it is an absolute wall, so this is not a job to be undertaken lightly in this car. The nice thing is the new boards on the door cards do look loads better. A lot of the crinkly and sagginess is all gone now. They're not perfect, that was never the goal. The goal was just to stop them looking quite so forlorn. And it's quite comfortable back here, really, all things considered. I also put 2 tacks in on, backlighting is not helping, this trim here. You can just see one of them catching the light, and that's just to keep that out of the way. I think when we do the wiring loom we're going to have to take that off, because I think the wiring runs down this side of the roof and across to the dome light up here, and then across and down into this semaphore on this side. I'm not 100% sure, but that's my suspicion looking at other cars of the era. A job for another day. The wiring loom's going to be a big one. But I am really happy with how that dashboard's turned out. I mean, the woodwork it just looks stunning now. It really does, without being over restored. Yeah, I'm really happy. There's still lots to do, lots of cables to connect, lots of wiring to sort out, but we're getting there. One of the other things I've dug out is this carpet set. This was a worn out carpet that I re-dyed for the Princess, and I kept hold of it. It's usable. I was going to use it as like putting it on the floor, but it might be bright orange, but it also might just give us some temporary carpeting in the Lanchester, so I'm going to give that a trial at some point and then trim it down and possibly use it as a pattern for when we make the proper carpets. Other things are these 2 fellas. The dance set we picked up off eBay for not very much, and that's going to be modernised, so that will be all modern stuff friendly. This one, which is a bit of a beast, is an old Echo CR32 from 47. That's much more in keeping with the car. Don't know if it works yet. I'm going to find out, and once we know whether or not it does, we'll decide what we're doing with it. If it's broken, we might modernise that one. But there you go. There's a day's work on this old lump. More later.